Hello, everybody. It's Michael Jacob with Unleashing Intuition Secrets. So I had have a guest coming on, and he shared with me a couple things. Hello, everybody. It's Michael Jacob with Unleashing Intuition Secrets. So I had have a guest coming on, and he shared with me a couple things. Hello, everybody. It's Michael Jacob with Unleashing Intuition Secrets. All right, got that double thing going on. All right, so yeah, he shared with me a couple things, and I'm gonna share the screen and bring a couple of them up so we can look at a lot of things. But he might have to explain some of these for us. I'm not quite sure about one of these. Oh, it's not the one I wanted. All right, so let me get out of that. So there's like this number 17. So 1700, there was a Navy show just the other day. There was, I guess there was 5 o'clock time. Here we go. All right. So there's like this pig. I'm not sure what the pig, and there's a goat in there. I'm not sure what we got going on here. It's a KY thing, but a fun part of Americana. All right. So we'll have to get that interpreted, but I can interpret this one on air Q at 1700. So 1700 is 5 o'clock. This was RSBN, where they were basically televising the Navy's 250th anniversary. So as you see there, 5 o'clock. And 5 o'clock in military time is 1700. So that's a Q time. So an air Q at 1700 from the Navy on the anniversary of the famous "What storm, Mr. President?" I'm a slow study, but maybe something is up. So there we go. Maybe Juan wants to interpret some of that for us. That'll be fun. All right. So another thing that he shared was this video with Trump's hidden war to save the republic, the enigma of April Fool's Day. So I'm going to play a little bit of it while we're waiting for Juan to come in. When he comes in, we'll kind of like move out of it. But this is a really good video, and the beginning of it is quite exceptional. So we'll play this for a few minutes while we're waiting on Juan to come in.
A shadow engulfs our republic, its sacred vote plundered for over 2 decades by traitors wielding rigged elections and a media unleashed to deceive by the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012, a law that freed government-funded propaganda to shape American minds. As I've chronicled in Mr. President, Look to Lincoln and Act and Antifa's Fall, President Donald Trump, guided by loyal military advisors, may have crafted a grand sting in 2020 to unmask this betrayal. A cryptic clue emerged on July 13th, when Trump, surviving an assassin's bullet in Butler, Pennsylvania, brandished an immigration chart with a startling note. Its bottom right corner claimed he left office on April 1st, 2020. Did he signal a secret activation of continuity of government, a Cold War plan to preserve governance amid catastrophe, hinting at a shadow war to reclaim America? This question demands answers. Consider the timing. Days prior, the bioweapon known as COVID-19. Days prior, the reclaim America.
So here's the famous shot where they were asking about the storm, and he was like, the coming storm, and they're like, what storm? And so we've looked at this over the years. We thought that it was this, we thought it was that, and who knows really. Is the storm still coming? It seems like, you know, we've gone through many storms. Is there going to be an ultimate storm? Who knows? But this was definitely a signal. Now, a lot of the officers, from my understanding, military officers, because this is a room full of military officers, a lot of them are gone. They were relieved of command, with the exception of maybe one or two. So we know there's been a cleaning out of the military on a massive scale. And that continued when supposedly the commander-in-chief was no longer in office. But of course, we've seen the 45-47, and we've seen President Trump where he was jokingly pointing to pictures of presidents, the wall of presidents, and he pointed to a picture of the President Joe Biden timeframe, and there was an auto pen signature there, and there was no Joe Biden there. So we know that there are operations that are afoot. And I believe that we're seeing some of that operation with the shutdown of the U.S. government, which basically gives President Trump a lot more reign to put the military into these Democrat hellhole cities. All right. They can't resist. They can't resist. And as we're seeing, there's judges that are coming in and saying you can't do that, but pretty much it's already a military operation. It's been a military operation for quite some time. We've just been letting a lot of this information be exposed.
This question demands answers. Consider the timing. Days prior, the bioweapon known as COVID-19 was unleashed to shut down America. Antifa's street chaos during the Summer of Love shaped their Handler's Fear campaign, precursors to a stolen election, all tools to carry out a soft coup by globalist insiders. Think Obama's intelligence operatives and Clinton's hidden allies. In 2025, troops marched to Portland, Oregon, and immigration and customs enforcement facilities to counter Antifa's riots. New executive orders shield elections, and Venezuelan operatives are named as meddlers. If continuity of government.
So all the way back in 2020, Venezuela was pointed out as having been part of the manipulation of the vote, right, with the machines. Now it's very interesting that we're seeing the beginnings of the fall of Venezuela, because we're seeing a military operation still, which is basically going to take down, I believe, the Venezuelan government. Trafficking drugs, part of, treasonous activities of usurping our elections. They were not fair. They were definitely free and fair. No, fair. And who was part of it not being fair? Who pushed that? Who pushed that in, some of these corporations, like we've seen with Facebook, Zuckerberg, spending hundreds of millions of dollars to, push illegal voting in several states where people showed up and, had backpacks full of ballots and stuffed them into ballot machines that Zuckerberg had funded. So we're seeing a lot of this stuff being exposed. President Trump invited a lot of these people or people that look like them to the White House for meetings. A lot of this stuff is going to be exposed. The people that were part of the treasonous activities of 2020, and then those governments around the world that were part of that treasonous activity that happened on 2020. So Venezuela will be one of those that will find repercussions from that.
Was triggered in 2020, it could nullify objections from courts corrupted by traitors, keeping Trump's fight within the Constitution's hallowed bounds. As a former professor and prosecutor, I offer a civilian lens to trace this legal path, blending it with military standards to reveal how Trump and allies like House Speaker Mike Johnson, who calls himself a wartime speaker, could restore the republic. Trump's own words claiming vast presidential powers and a wartime mantle underscore a commander-in-chief's resolve against a fractured government. And that's the topic for today. The enigma of April Fool's Day. Trump's hidden war to save the republic. On July 13th, Trump defied death in Butler. He pointed to an immigration chart declaring he left office on April 1st, 2020, a date belied by his service until January 20th, 2021. In our premise, elections rigged since 2000 via hacked machines and foreign ballots, media hiding treason, this note sparks intrigue. Continuity of government is a classified system, born in the Cold War to ensure governance survives crisis.
So continuity of government and the right of that military establishment to protect and defend America against foreign and domestic. So foreign being Venezuela and other countries that were part of China probably as well, as we're going to see part of the steel. And we're also going to see how many governors, mayors, and health officials around the country were part of treasonous activities to steal the election of 2020. This was something that we could not speak about on this channel several years ago. It would be taken down. But now, through a process of pushing back on the false narratives of some of these social media platforms, and also in the the media, the corrupt media that pushes the deep state narrative, Democrat Party, Rhino Party, whatever, they're all one party, right? And that party is dedicated to destroying America so that some very dark elite can take over. This dark elite that has powers that belies, what we wanted to have. Child trafficking on a massive scale over the last 4 years during the so-called Biden administration, right? A shadow government that basically came in and was exposing itself to the American people and the world as being not constitutional, as being a shadow corporate entity. So we're seeing all of this being exposed. Juan has been part of that. I've been part of that. Many other truthers out there have been part of this. We've had massive pushback, and but still we continue the fight. And on a day like today, we're able to really get this information out and continue to push back on the deep state and destroy it. So let's play just a little bit more.
Like nuclear war or a coup, guided by Presidential Policy Directive 40, it allows the president to relocate leaders to secure bunkers, like Cheyenne Mountain, Colorado, or transfer power to trusted officials if Washington falls. Did military advisors, alerted by 2016 spying on Trump's campaign, exposed in 2025 by declassified intelligence reports, warn him that the COVID-19 bioweapon had two ends? First, to set into motion the bioengineers' depopulation agenda. Second, to create panic, to undermine his presidency and shape the conditions to rig the 2020 election.
Juanito, can you hear me, Juanito?
Nino. I mean, Jaco. Hey, how you doing there, bro?
Doing good. Playing a little bit of that, video you sent. It's pretty impressive. People were enjoying that. We're talking a little bit.
David Clement is a great friend, and
Nice.
He did a great job on that video, and it was sort of an homage to subjects that I've been talking about for a long time, and so kind of a tip to him for that. But he's been in this fight for a long time. Great guy. Has like so many of us that have been doing the fight, has had to kind of wade through a lot of stuff. He was fired from his job as a university professor because of his stance on the COVID. And then he was up at Lindell's symposium and spoke, and that was the final straw. And so he talks about that in the video there. And then Trump loves him. So there's stuff going on in the background that he's being very appropriate and not discussing, but work that he and others around him have done that's just extremely important, high level stuff. So great guy. We're, from within the Patriot community, we are blessed to have David Clements here in our group. And by the way, I had somebody in DC yesterday made a derogatory comment. I sent the video over, and this is somebody that many in the audience would recognize the name instantly, and said, "Oh, I don't want anything to do with that grifter." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" No, David's not a grifter, and proceeded to say a bunch of stuff that was totally uninformed, and that was pretty painful to me because it's not just David himself with his job and like that, but he's been traveling the country all through the COVID crisis, and then on the election stuff. I think he's been in 49 of the 50 states doing presentations. He got young sons, and his wife takes care of him when he's gone, which every woman in this audience knows how much of a load it puts on the spouse when the other spouse is traveling and gone like that. And they're both in. They've made huge sacrifices to contribute a lot to what's going on in the community, and so that cut pretty hard. I was pretty decisive with this person, and it really wound me up. Of one of the great heroes of this period of time for America, when everything is kind of written, is going to be David Clements, Professor David Clements. And you can see it even in that video. Let me ask you this, Michael. As long as you've been in this and all the people you talk to, has anyone that you know of ever pointed out publicly the April 1st date within this continuity of government operation?
No one. I was pretty impressed with that video. That was well put together. The man's a genius. Yeah.
Well, and part of it, you kind of have to understand, he was not a true believer, if you will, in the whole idea of a military operation taking place here in plain sight. And so he went out and he did his own research and came to these conclusions. And so with that in mind, you're seeing some original work on his part. There have been others, and I'm aware of it, that have pointed out the anomalies of April 1st forward, and Trump actually stepping away from his role as the president and into his role as the commander-in-chief within a continuity of government. And of course, I've pointed out to audiences for a very long time that Trump never gave up the nuclear codes, never conceded the election, etc. But I think the way that Professor Clements has presented this is beautifully done and unique. And then he also doesn't have, from his style, he doesn't have the bombast, the flamboyancy. It's a fairly considered professorial approach. And so that's what I like within our overall community is so many different personalities. The Nino, you yourself with your military background, And let me just, I want to mention this. You and I haven't spoken since the Charlie Kirk assassination.
Mm-hmm.
I think your role in presenting well articulated concerns and even decisively stating that it cannot possibly be what has been presented was very important in helping a lot of people to slow down and think about what's being foisted upon us. Now, probably the only place that I would disagree with you potentially on, if I know where you are on this, was that Charlie survived this, and I don't believe that's the case. But the theater in the way this was done, and the falsehoods that have been foisted on the world through this event, is becoming impossible to stand by any of the original narrative. And something horrendous has occurred, and it's the use of the media, the event, the flamboyancy of the event to try to capture and redirect the patriot movement energies, etc., by some of the monsters, and to capture what we have as far as this, movement. And you've been doing, heavy lifting. I hear about it from all different quarters, and I just wanted to, hat tip to you. You're one of my heroes, because there's lots of people that have some knowledge. There's very few that have it at so many different levels of expertise, personal experience, and then the willingness to weigh in, make some hard statements that you can stand by, and then stand by them. So big hat tip to you, bro. I just wanted to get that in right off the bat. So I appreciate you tremendously for that.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Juan. Yeah. So we'll see how that works out. I'm not really. I don't have all the answers, but I can just use my professional insights and point some stuff out, and then people can make their own decisions. That's what we're all about, I think.
Well, but there's so. I had to get a little sip of something to keep my throat wet. There's so much that isn't making sense in this whole thing. Was outside of the people that did it exactly what's going on here. So we're looking through a glass darkly, but we've certainly got plenty of people that have become truly experts, stepped forward in so many ways with so much detail from their own expertise to show why it couldn't possibly have happened the way that it's been said, and to power through that. I am just amazed within this community, the broader community, how many different expert disciplines have come into play in this one thing to try to wade through what we were told happened and the theater of what actually occurred there, and trying to get to the truth. I believe that Charlie, and there's valid reason to question, is he even dead? But I'm pretty personally convinced that he actually died in this. But there's just so many weird things. No autopsy? Seriously? Yeah. Destroy the crime scene? Seriously? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So, that's one of the things that we can do. We can just help people do the critical thinking, and just ask those questions. But I love the direction that we took it. We being the Patriots, we definitely made that a beautiful statement, and I think it keeps moving forward. if anything, if they tried to come in and destroy the Patriot movement and cause a rift and cause infighting and cause some kind of civil war type thing, I think it completely failed there.
Well, let me ask you this: what's your current thinking? Do you still think that he's alive somewhere? Is that where you've gone in your view of this with everything you've seen?
Yeah, I think that he's probably part of, and I don't know this, no one's told me this. I just, just deductive reasoning. I could be wrong. He could absolutely be dead. But what I think is he was removed from the scene, and I've seen some people that are there, former Navy SEALs and so forth, that were part of that. So I think there was maybe some kind of other agenda that's going on there to remove him from the scene and put him in a protective situation, and another military group that's out there. Are those your vehicles?
Oh yeah, I've been sitting so much over the last couple of days, needed to get up and move around
Wow.
for a minute.
Beautiful.
So yeah, that's almost perfectly restored 59 Skyliner I've had for a while, and it's an excellent car. I mean, I'm so busy. I've parked a lot of stuff and haven't even touched it for years. That's an ultra rare supercharged 56 Sunliner. My very first car I personally purchased at 13 years old was a 56 Sunliner. And but this one is like the Eleanor of Eleanors. It's with the right data stuff on the data plate. It was delivered as a supercharged 56 convertible. So it's one of those ones where when you do it, you have to do everything exactly perfect. And I've had two restored over the years, and so it's a project. Someday I want to get to it, but you can't do it half-ass or.
Yeah.
It was a black and white convertible. Some of the other stuff. Some people might remember these little AMC 4-wheel drives when they came out. These are cool little cars, and that's an ultra low miles one. It's only got, I think, 36,000 miles on it.
That's nice.
K car. With the turbo 2.2, I had to open to charge the battery a little bit ago, but that's a fun car. The Avanti. This is really a pretty cool hot rod here. That's but I drove that one for the first time in many years, just to go get some gas in it, get some fresh gas in it, and didn't have time to wash it up, but.
That's impressive. I've never even seen that style before.
I got the cars, so.
Yeah, got some nice.
Yeah, well, I mean, I got.
What is that? What is that first car you were focused on?
Well, that's actually it's kind of a car. It's actually based on the 20s, but it's. If you look at the doors there, they built these cars around that, and they did it with LTD up in Santa Barbara. These types of bodies on the LTDs up there, and I was living in Montecito at the time. And I remember going to a friend's house who had actually manufactured cars at one point, custom cars, First American sports car. And so I was at his house, we were talking about it, and I told him what the price was on it. And, I forget the name of the boxer, fought Frazier and Ali, and I can't think of his name right off the top of my head. Anyway, he was coming over dinner, and he had his brand new Clinet. And I told my friend, well, they sell for, I think at the time I said $29,000. And he said, there's no way you can build a car. I know what it costs. There's no way. I says, no, they're selling the parts off these LTDs from Ford. They got a deal with it. He came over and he had this beautiful beautiful tan Clenet two-seater. They made a four-seater later, but a two-seater that looked a lot like this, and it was a fun car. And I've had Chad went to after he sold it, and that Clenet at some point in my life. But I just enjoy the Clenet was a convertible, and it's a hard top. It's a very fun car to drive. But anyway, farm trucks. You gotta have trucks for farm, right? So it depends on what you're doing. If you're moving livestock or something, you really don't want to do it without a dually and then the other one like that. So, but yeah, fun stuff. I have a two WS6s, which are the hot rods with the Corvette motor. This is just a grocery getter convertible. These are rare. This is a wagon, AMC wagon. It's only got, I think, 80,000 miles on it. All original. We got the original wheels in the back. Those wheels for the Shelby, but that's kind of a rare Shelby too. I've got a '66 red Shelby with white stripes, and then I've got this one because it's kind of fun. It actually looks horrible, but it's only got 60,000 miles on it too. It's perfect shape, original. Every option that you could have on it. So kind of fun. And I got 4 more garages kind of with various stuff, but I'm just trying to, I don't get to be here that often because, we're just so much in the fight. So it's kind of grinding because they just melt in the ground if you don't do a little bit with them. And I have to throw, anti-mouse stuff. If you look around underneath every car, my main reason for even coming by today, other than, I wanted to charge up one of the batteries, is the mouse stuff so that they're not getting into the wiring and all that.
Wow.
I have a friend, one of the Hollywood actors, and the mice got into his car, his Range Rover. He had it parked at somebody's house for like 3 or 4 months. And he got back to his car, and they had completely eaten the wiring out. And so his 8 or 9 year old Range Rover 4-wheel drive was completely totaled from mice eating all the wiring.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah.
Do you ever read those books by Clive Cussler, Dirk Pitt books?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You totally remind me of that with all these cars. That's great.
Well, I was over a few weeks ago and checked on my Shelby and a couple of the Bentleys.
Oh, wow.
I thought of that there too. There's stuff that I haven't even started in forever, but I pickled the engine. So when you do that, you don't want to just go start them. You pickled them for a reason. Pull all the plugs out and put some stuff in there to keep them wet. But there's so many things carburetors, the seals dry out. I had to put air in the tires on this one here because it's, they're older tires like that. You might have a bad valve stem or something like that. So they're down, in a year and a half, they were down maybe 10 pounds. So that's coming down for whatever reason. And so, there's just lots of stuff that in the fight, like we're in the fight, and I know you have kind of a similar thing probably, when you're so deep into it, this stuff just has to go to the wayside. You just cannot you just have to put it out of your mind. I'll get back to it whenever. I was thinking about, for example, on the Skyliner, that's a retractable top. The whole top comes down and goes in the trunk.
Wow.
And they don't like to sit. So there's actually, behind the rear seat back, there's 20 electrical relays. And if anywhere in this thing it runs into a little bit of resistance, it'll flip the switch. Well, you gotta kind of use it once in a while. So when you push the button, the trunk lid comes up. Then the top comes to a certain point, and a position or portion of the top in the front folds over, and then the whole thing comes down and goes in the trunk. And there's a tub in there that's, if you want to put something in the trunk, it has to be inside that tub. And the whole thing comes in, then the top has to come down. 20 electrical relays. And if any of them flips, you gotta pull the receipt back off and, clean it and put it back, and then figure out before you try to restart it, why did it flip? Is there something that doesn't have lubrication or whatever? In other words, they don't like to sit. If you use it every day, if you use it, once a week, even once a month, it's fine. But when you just leave them sit for years, it doesn't work. And of course, when the fight started hard back in 15 for me, a lot of the stuff gradually became less and less where I could do anything with it. So, they've sat for a very long time, but I don't feel the luxury to go back and deal with it. But I know that there's all sorts of patriots, like Professor Clement. He's got 2 young sons. His wife is taking care of him while he's on the road, and he's not making any big money. There's people who have donated a little bit so that he can cover expenses to come out and present on the election stuff and on the COVID stuff early on, and he helped with the legal stuff on the COVID stuff early on, some of the Patriot stuff, working strategies for J6ers and like that. That all cuts into your time, even when you think of, well, he's home. Yeah, but then he's taking, even to put together the little presentation that you just showed your audience, the prep, the research, the setup, the scripting, and he's now doing I think a weekly show there too with other similar stuff. So I hope people will go look at that. But at the end of the day, think of all of the people that are out there putting stuff aside like this. I think, I'm just glad to be able to even have it to put aside. But at the end of the day, that's why I sold my boat here last year. I just wasn't going to get back to it. And I love my boat. But we're at a point in the fight where it's all in. And look at what's just happened. Comey got arrested, but there's more coming. This week, judges and prosecutors that are on the payroll to Soros are coming up and going to be getting some attack. Brennan is coming, over at CIA. And of course, you have some history there too.
Yeah,
that's coming. In fact, I spent the other day.
I was there in the Brennan, and I know I knew that he was a bad man. It was very obvious.
Yeah, and all the people around him, all the stuff that they're doing, around them, these are a pretty evil crew.
Totally.
So
I like all these cars. You're a car aficionado, obviously, and some people notice some of these cars in the chat, but we've had other people that, like Jay Leno, like he has a lot of cars, but he had a black eye to keep some of those cars. I don't think you're going to have that problem.
Well, I can tell you this, and every guy in here knows this, maybe a few gals, but if you're not using them and you can't take care of them, the spouses are always very ready to tell you that you should thin them out and get rid of them, but they're all personal. It's like your pets, and there's history. I just got off the phone with one of the mechanics that does stuff for me, and I have a couple of cars out in the East Coast. I got several cars out in the East Coast that I'm getting ready to move out to the West and to Vegas, and it's I've had them sitting out there literally for several years in storage, and but I can't use them out there. I was going to maybe drive a couple of them back that I wanted to. I was looking forward to it, but I'm not going to get a chance. So they're just kind of, you just know when you're not using them that there's 1,000 little things that dry out, need attention, something. If you're using it all the time, at least you can keep it up. And, I've for a long time, I did keep track of all my stuff, but the fight is so now. And I know all through this audience, everybody feels that they know this is coming to a head. And so this is that one moment where you can't drop your guard. You can't roll it in. This is the one moment you got to be for. Even doing what President Trump did with the generals the other day reaffirms that. We're at this moment where it's all flipping and reversing. And by the way, did you notice, maybe some of your audience knows this or don't, President Trump at 5 o'clock in his presentation on the over in Virginia with the Navy, at 5 o'clock sharp, right on the button, he does a big Q in the air, right, with his hand. Well, excuse me, 5 o'clock is what military time?
1700, yeah.
Yeah, and so Q is 17. Esther's the 17th book of the Bible. This is all about the boomerang. This is all coming around. We've seen the apex. When the boomerang goes out and it goes up, it turns, and then it gains momentum coming back a little bit. This is that, I think, the apex. But the other thing you should take from that is it's not the end. Just because things are turning, there's a lot of moving parts in doing what we have to do here in the next bit, taking out some of the crooked judges, which Professor Clements talks about in his presentation there that you listened to, and taking out some of the crooked prosecutors is a big deal. And then let me add this too, and I think it's an important thing that has to be added. My focus moving forward, and it is the next several years now, I've talked about the importance of these arrests that are coming, and that these people that were involved in this treasonous, traitorous moment have to see justice. And so as we see this coming to pass, Brennan and others, Hillary, all the others, some of them deciding to, not go through the trial phase that's coming, not wanting to experience Gitmo, self-exterminating. But as we move through that phase, the one thing that I'm going to be emphasizing with your audience and others, and it is, I have had it written, but standing by, because I initially wanted to, but I decided I didn't want to take the attention off of this current moment and the lead up to this phase of the arrests. But I do consider this just the turn at the apex to the more important issue, which is this. This was all orchestrated and conducted from outside the United States. This was our enemies. We had treasonous traitors within our government operations in positions of power and authority who did horrible things against America, trying to capture, divert, steal the helm of the ship of state. But at the end of the day, it was being orchestrated from outside the country, and it wasn't done by George Soros. Okay, Soros, as I've told your audience and others repeatedly, is just a figurehead for British intelligence. And all the money that he got was stolen from the people within the common market countries when they took down various currencies. It was an attack to have a black bag with money to do what Soros is doing within this globalist agenda. The fight is a lot bigger and broader than most people have understood. And as we get into the discovery phase, preparing for trials and the disclosures that will come from Gitmo, I think what this audience and what I'll ask other audiences to do is listen between the lines for an understanding of how a group of royalists, primarily out of the city of London and including the British, as well as other countries, Dutch prominently, and others within these royal families, have colluded in various ways, including the Green Movement, to try to steal the future of the world and do a coup against not just America, but against the whole world. Yep. With these elections and with the election systems and like that. And even what is at first look, China, to understand that there is a royalist component, these people seeking their empire and to continue with their empire, their imperialist idea and ideals out into the next centuries. They want to destroy humanity as we now know it, and they believe that they can own the future by killing the rest of the planet off, starving us to death, choking us to death through war, and seeing us destroyed. And so we have we will see the American component of that, where they have infiltrated, become part of our government, been supported, funded, to bring America back under the heel of these royals and the organizations that they operate and fund in plain sight that seem so benign or American. It's not just one. It's multiple organizations that seem disconnected at one level, but at another level are totally connected. It's not 33 degrees, it's 360 degrees of various groups and people working together, most of the time, even those individuals not understanding how completely interconnected their actions are at the highest levels. And so there's a certain need, and it's what I'm going to put a lot of my energy into, to helping to connect all of those dots so that people see that even these minions who seemed so powerful here in America at various times and got their, way, there's other chessboards that are out of sight where these manipulators are moving and working from to try to control the course of the world for their advantage and to destroy the world with their wars and famines and stuff like that, for their desired outcome, which is a depopulated planet where only their chosen ones get to be part of the future. And I want people to understand that, think about, we'll try to pull the pieces together as much as possible to make it clearer and clearer. And I think as these prosecutions go through, that's what I hope within this audience and others similar, that it begins to gel and make sense, so we see beyond the visible people, just like you would see beyond Soros himself, and understand he's just a figurehead for something much larger, a conflict that's much greater, and then understanding that, we're only at some level at a midpoint as we begin to go and pluck up some of these useful idiots that are even in powerful positions who themselves are just pawns in a much larger game to own and control the world. Does that click for you? I mean, am I saying that the way?
Because a lot of people are like, they're going to see Hillary and Comey and Brennan, go bye-bye. And they're like, okay, we're all done. No, we have a lot more to go. It's levels like you're talking about. Soros is
Yeah.
nothing.
Well, and I think by at least having this in part of the conversation, my concern up to this moment has been not to get ahead of our skis. I remember Steve Largent, the receiver up at the Seahawks years ago after a playoff game or something. He did some amazing play, and the announcer at the time asked him, he said, after the game, he says, I mean, when you know everybody's looking at you and everybody knows you're the one that's going to get the ball, and you're running out, the play, and it was like the whole game ran on this one play, and he had this history, and he's the guy. And so the announcer says, or this interviewer says, don't you think about, what are you thinking about at a moment like that? Aren't you worried you might drop the ball in the whole game? Everybody blames the whole thing on you because you didn't catch the ball and you could have won the game. And this time it worked, but how many times doesn't it work, and blah, blah, blah. And he made a very important statement that goes to a level of professionalism, focus, mental acuity, to push out all other thoughts that could be destructive, divisive, damaging. And he gave this answer that has stuck with me all the way through. For a very long time, I've thought about this over and over, lots of key moments. He said, when I'm there, when I'm at this point in the game, I don't think about all the times I've dropped the ball. I don't think about failure. I don't think about, because this is what the announcer's saying, aren't you afraid you're going to fail? And, he doesn't think about that. He thinks about the times he's succeeded, the reason he's even there in the first place, and that he has the skill, the ability. That's why he's the guy on the field at that critical moment. He thinks about all the times he succeeded. We're at this crucial moment, and I've had people, even in the last few days there in D.C., but this hasn't happened. This isn't going to happen. We don't know if that's going to happen. Very defeatist at a moment when we're about to see some of the greatest victories ever in the history of the planet that prove that we can win and take back control from monsters of the way our country works, and help go out into the world and change the way the world works. Save millions of lives from these monsters trying to, drive us off the road into oblivion, into hell. And that's painful for me within this audience. And you know this even from your own experience. You fight like you train. And so you train to win. You don't train to lose. And if you have backups, that's so you will win, even as things go funny or crazy or directions you didn't necessarily plan on. Well, you planned for those changes. Sun Tse, in his book, Art of War, one of the passages that's one of the most important, he says that people that continue to consult and to continue to reevaluate options and possibilities, that they win. And those who tend not to reconsider, reevaluate, contemplate, and review tend to lose. Yeah. So yes, we're at this rarefied moment where we have to go through, okay, what if, okay, what's going on, okay, but not with the mindset, what if I drop the ball, how am I going to, explain this to my girlfriend, my mom, the viewers and all that, but in a very positive way. No, if this thing happens, the guy cuts in front of me that way, I'm going to do this and I'm going to cut that way. I'm going to play to win. I'm going to make the move. I'm going to get the ball to the ground and buy that extra minute. But I'm going to get across the, 10-yard line before I do it. I'm going to somehow accomplish the goal. You've got an attitude, a spirit of success, not failure. We're at the brink of something absolutely stunningly amazing.
Yeah.
And the game goes on, because once we get through this next series of plays, then we're on the way towards going after the real monsters, the global monsters. And that's the playoffs, not this next play. This is just getting through the regular season. Playoffs are coming, and that's when we go after the globalists. And that's why things like what's going on in Israel, Ukraine, Africa, Central and South America, Venezuela, and all of the Pacific is just so critical right now. And then the amazing thing is Trump, people think he has, plenty of time in the day to do whatever. Think of the sacrifices. He's got grandchildren. He would love to spend the whole day, the whole week, playing around with the grandkids and doing his golfing. And he's putting all sorts of things aside, as so many of this audience are, to get to this next place in the game. This is no time to wimp out or be distracted. So it's all happening. It's coming to pass, just like we thought it would so long ago.
Yeah, but so many people wanted to know, and they still do, because there's people like, what's next? What? It's like my kids, well, what, daddy, over and over again. And like you just described, when I've been in combat and I've been in dangerous situations, I don't have a preconceived idea of what's going to happen. So a lot of people want this preconceived, perfect response to everything. It doesn't happen. And you've been perfect with this. You give the best, future event possible that we are focused on. We can focus on, but you have to go in with an open mind, with critical thinking, and with team effort type mentality. My best things every time when I was in a combat situation, and things went absolutely perfect, I went in completely empty mind, and I just let things, happen as they did. I trusted my team. I trusted the people I was working with. Everyone did incredible. We would look back on it and it's like, that was impossible what we did, but that impossibility is possible by that type of mentality. And you just described it perfectly. Thank you.
Well, let me just add this. There's people that they want, we want to do a show like this and give you every last detail, cash that, and, blah, blah, blah. There's plenty of people doing that. I can do a blow by blow, but it might not be as useful as trying to game out some of the options of what's going on here, what's the broader meaning, and trying to, look at moving forward and prepare people for those next possibilities. I think that might be the proper place or role, at least for me for the moment, to try and tie these current events that are things that we already knew were coming, talked about, and now they're coming to pass with the coming arrests. Well, they haven't arrested Hillary yet. It hasn't happened. Oh, chill. Hold on. It's coming. It's very close. Okay. Now I'm trying to be further ahead than most of the other people out there. And what does that mean? Is the fight over? And if you think the fight is over, then you're missing the best part of the fight, which is the playoffs. Come on, take a deep breath. It's not season 2, it's playoffs. So anyway, because the other reason I want to get this, I want to get the show on the road. I want to get to the playoffs because I got a lot of stuff. I got a brand new engine for my Saline that's been sitting in the crates. All of the drivetrain pulled out, waiting for 4 years. It's painful. I want to get my Shelby out, clean it up, park both of them side by side. Look at all the dust on my cars.
Yeah.
I mean, because they're just sitting here. I got a lot of personal stuff I'd love to do, and prove to my wife that it's very important that I have my cars so I can, stay busy doing something else when things are on the right track. I'm highly motivated. Okay.
Yeah.
But it just isn't the moment yet. It just isn't. And so you take a deep breath and stay focused to get through this next moment. And that's the thing about even what Steve Largent said. You can't have your mind on I'm going over into the end zone. How many times have you seen players in professional football or any other sport probably, and they're already getting ready to do the dance going into the end zone and thinking about, am I going to dance this way? Am I going to throw the ball that way? What am I going to do? And they haven't even caught the ball yet. You can't even think about running down the field so much as just catch the ball and then worry about those next moves. And so not getting ahead to the other stuff globally too much for the time being, maybe acknowledging that that's an issue coming forward, and that's where I want to put a lot of my attention going forward. We still have to get through these next moments. And by the way, on the election stuff for 2026, don't expect, there's all sorts of issues over at Justice Department, and they're not the fault of the good guys. A very captured operation. Some good guys have come in. They're trying to get things going the right way. There's a lot of people that left. There's a legacy. Doge cut out a bunch of money that was going in there. I've talked with Rob many times. The solution and the things that have to happen both to get a proper prosecution and all 3 courts, which means court, and then the solutions, getting ready for 2026. We cannot have a stolen election, the election that is tainted through various types of fraud for the federal election 26. So solutions will not be just executions. You see some people circulation over the next months within corrupt prosecutors and judges. The solutions will only partially occur, and they won't be completed in time for 2026. So watch for, prepare for the unexpected, be ready for the unexpected. And that's another thing about training. You train for everything you know, and then you also train for the unexpected. So within your conversations to your fellow citizens, friends, family, everything else, if you're over fixated on solutions coming from the place that they should logically come from, which is Justice Department, you might be frustrated or disappointed ultimately while you don't see it coming from that direction in the time period you expect to see it. I think you're going to have to take a deep breath and be prepared for solutions coming from directions that nobody saw or anticipated fully, and let them play out. The people around the president and the president himself got him here in the first place are very clear on what must and needs to be done to protect the future here and what's coming. And we should all be very grateful that we have such a great group of patriots that are in position to do what needs to be done at the right time, right place, right way, to keep us intact as a country, as a people.
Yeah, very good. So you've talked about this month, October, as potentially being pretty involved, maybe into next month as well. What are your current? Mhm.
Well, I think that classically it's been referred to as Red October. Of course, we have the anniversary coming up of the October 7th stuff in Israel, and lots of anticipation that there may be some type of reprisals, attacks to emphasize that date. So I know that at other times there were attempts to try and do that. We thwarted them and anticipated, and the bad guys, the black hats, didn't get to pull off what they intended. But every situation is unique and different. So, again, deep breaths. Let's not drop our guard. And then each time we thwart some of these monsters, the more frustrated they get when they come back. Remember, Benghazi happened on the 11th anniversary, not the 10th anniversary. Most people were looking for that. And by the way, on the flip side, Bush 1, his New World Order speech happened 11 years before 9/11. So they had a 11-year calendar that they were working from, not a 10-year, which most people think of. You could easily see some kind of a variation in the attacks and things like that suits their purposes. They love to live by the numbers and celestial alignments and all sorts of other, gizmos. But let's not be afraid to think outside the box. We have very sophisticated enemies that we're engaging with.
Yeah, totally. I was just talking with a person that's very high up in LA, and they were talking about 30-year, programs that they have going on. So, and they just pointed out all these different things, how every 30 years, they hammer down a little bit more, they grab a little bit more, they steal a little bit more, they're a little bit more corrupt. So, and that happens in a 30-year period. It's wow, crazy.
Well, I'll tell you something interesting. You just raised something that I should mention. And I don't want to give away the farm on it. Mm-hmm. But in the bonds, see, one of the most insidious ways that the American people have been being trapped, our system hijacked, money diverted in order to do all sorts of political mischief, is in the bonds. Fire district bonds, school district bonds, road projects, a high-speed train in California, the monorail up in Seattle. These bonds and then grants of money being diverted from the bond issues illegally. That's about to get a whole bunch of attention. And probably realistically, a month out before it really gets where it's going to. But billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars in taxpayer money being hijacked, scooped off of this bond money that everybody that has property has to pay, being exposed for the frauds that are going on in there. Oh my gosh, you aren't going to believe what's coming, and it's going to affect the political machine in ways almost nobody can anticipate right now. I mean, I just went through it again over the last few days with the legal stuff that's coming, and you know, money is the mother's milk of politics. So while you're looking at donations and Soros and all sorts of other things, what pales all of those donations is the bond money, because the bond money is what's running these law firms and the unions of, you know, whoever does the projects gets the projects based on, you know, government decisions and allocations and all that, project managers, program managers, and all that. Consider the guy out in Iowa, who was the school superintendent. Everybody's heard about this, and he wasn't even a U.S. citizen. Now think about that times 100, times 1,000. You're about to get your mind blown by what's been going on and why people like that. His wasn't as innocent as at first it would appear. The reason that was exposed is because that was peripheral to another project looking at these things in other locations. And it was decided to provide that information to target that particular individual without blowing other similar projects going on in other places in the country. You're about to see more of just that. Many of them orders of magnitude worse. And remember this, while you're all excited about he is an illegal, got to this high position with false credentials, etc. In his position, he had certain legal and signing authority for asking for and directing where school bond money goes in the largest school district in Iowa.
Wow.
Or Ohio. So within that context, now think of many others. If you're a taxpayer, you have property, and you have to pay a bunch of money out. Who's, you know, regulating, funding, controlling that? The law firms, all sorts of little things that you don't fully realize. Within the country of major cities, the working number right now is that 15% of all the bond money is being routed illegally. Think of billions of dollars. There's projects going on around the country, and somebody has access to 15% of that to support their legal, political ambitions. How are you going to compete with that? Okay, so that's what's coming. It's going to be epic. It's going to be a lot of fun. So anyway, just a little tidbit for folks.
Yeah, good point about the all those taxes, you know, that we've talked about over the years that are probably going to go away. Homeowner tax probably going to go away. Property taxes. So
well,
it's a scam.
If you can make that go away, think of how different your life is. It's like leeches, parasites, externally and internally on, you know, us as a people. Wouldn't you like to have that to spend on your kids and the other guys not have it to spend on their latest bullshit? You know, you look at what the property taxes are. You don't own your property. You're on a long-term lease. somebody else owns it when they have the ability to tax it away from you, and they're doing it. It's huge taxes. It's just one of many. But don't pay your property taxes. See what happens. They're faster than the IRS are to come take your property. Okay. So, attacking back on some of these legalities, some of the applications, unfortunately, we can't fully roll back, but we can go after the people that illegally did these contracts and wrote these agreements like that, the law firms and similar, and recover some of that. And it'll take a long time, but at least we can get the kill the leech, kill the parasites, and start the process of healing. The damage is there, but we can start the process of healing.
Absolutely. So I think silver, as we're seeing, is going to continue to go up. I've gotten a lot of those coins. You can't say I have a lot of coins. Now I'm not really a collector anymore. The last big run in silver, my collectibles didn't really do well. So I'm pretty much a guy that does 1,000 ounce coins or bars now. But I like these coins. These coins are going to be very amazing going forward. You have a very good price on the Jennifer Mack website, and every time you put up a new coin, the Gitmo's a recent one, I just grab them. Yep. So they're
the Gitmos,
very the U.S. Mint, and you actually have a discount. You're discounting below the U.S. Mint price, and these are far more collectible, I think, than the United States Mint coins.
Well, they're what's called a proof coin, and so you can get uncirculated or just the regular stuff, and you're getting it for significantly less. But proof coins are different, and so ours are done at that level of quality. And then we haven't printed some amazing, unbelievable amount. They're relatively thin on the production numbers. And so they'll have a certain rarity. In fact, several of the coins, I didn't even keep enough for ourselves. We had to fulfill the orders. And so I actually had to go buy some coins back from one of the people that bought quite a few to cover a couple of orders on some of them. But, and I've been, just like you said, you didn't do as well in some of the collector stuff. I think I've told your audience and other audiences, I've always tried to say, look, if you're looking for the best buy from an investment standpoint on silver, just what I call bag or junk silver, which is silver coins, pre-64, any of them, dimes, quarters, dollars, whatever, just sold by weight.
Yep.
It is tender for a to buy, I think is the best buy, and the only other thing, even beyond what we have, although I think there's a collector side that they will be ultimately worth quite a bit more because they're kind of fun within the stuff that Jen and I have done there. But in a pure play, gold versus silver, and even gold bars versus silver bars are similar. It's the coins. They're a known weight. They're a known purity. That's the whole point of the U.S. Mint. And then it's certified by the government to be that weight and purity. So if you're buying the coins, not for collector value, just for the pure silver, you're getting the best buy moving forward. And especially with the U.S. silver coins, I think that is the right route forward if you're out there and you're buying it, and you'll pay a premium over spot price. It's worth every penny of it, because one thing about silver coin, for example, you don't have to, what are you buying, a house? if you're dealing with gold, you're, buying a car or whatever. No, you're probably, if you're transacting it, buying something less expensive, and food, gas, whatever, if you actually had to use it. This round, it's not so much about how you're going to use it, because we're going to come through this looking pretty good. There's going to be some drama ahead here and there, but it's not end of the world. This isn't Armageddon we're headed into. What you're trying to do is preserve your purchasing power against fiat of all types. So what it's, doesn't have any intrinsic value. It's just a stated value, the paper or whatever, and by the way, people, if paper fiat, printed dollars in any country's thing, if that's sketchy because it's not what the paper it's printed on, what do you think digital fiat is? I get it. I understand all the Bitcoin, the digital currency that the Biden people were trying to push, all of the cryptos. But the reality is it's a perceived value. It's an agreed upon value, but it's not intrinsic. It's not like gold and silver tied to something essentially within that context immutable. And the way you have to look at gold and silver is probably the opposite of what you're trained. Silver, you mentioned just a minute ago, has gone way up in value. No, it hasn't. If you look at it correctly, the silver hasn't gone up in value. The paper required to buy the silver has gone down in value. Same with gold. And that's what the fiat is. It's a con game. So we need to be preserving our wealth. Is it a permanent position? No. I've told this to your audience before, but it bears repeating. Everybody has to kind of think about it a little bit. On the far side of everything that we're going through right now, you're going to want, if you've bought gold or silver, you're going to want to reinvest it into things that do things, that make things. That's why, for example, in the crash after 29, the one sector of the stock market that continued to do well, that actually made good profits, were the mining stocks, specifically gold mining stocks. This time around, there may be other mining stocks that have other focuses, whether it's rare earth or stuff that I'm into with certain metals used for aerospace applications that are very rare and unique. But stuff where it has some actual utilization value. If you just have your gold and silver buried under the bed or the couch or wherever, it neither spins nor toils. But this wild moment that we're coming into, it's hard to pick the right direction perfectly. And so there's moments where the music is about to stop, and you don't know which companies are really looking like they're going to survive on the far side. There's not enough data, it's not clear, etc. So you find a seat until the music starts up again. We're in that kind of a moment where there may be people that know the perfect best next play in some area, and they're going to go take a wild shot at it. For a lot of your audience, they're not comfortable, they're not that sophisticated, it's not the right moment. So they take a pause, they get something that has real value, let the war between the International Reserve Bank system and the U.S. Treasury duke it out. And on the far side, by the way, the Treasury, which is denominating its currency, has notes against in stock gold and silver. Remember Kennedy, he issued a silver certificate that Johnson reversed immediately in the days after the assassination.
Yep.
That was a threat to the Federal Reserve System by the Treasury that Kennedy initiated. It wasn't fiat like what the Federal Reserve has, not tied to anything. It was tied to silver on deposit in the Federal Reserve that you could take your currency, your reserve notes, and go to any bank and get silver coin of the same amount. Okay, and by the way, in that time period, you still had real silver without the copper in it in your silver dollars, pre-64 Kennedy silver dollars. Kennedy did that. And by the way, let me just, I haven't mentioned this before. I'm going to do something on this. I haven't so far, but I'm going to do something on this. We always talk repeatedly, for example, with the 60s assassinations and President Kennedy, the attempt on Reagan and on President Trump. We rarely hear anybody going back to McKinley. But McKinley was threatening the international banker operations prior to the setup of the Federal Reserve. Just like they had to kill the wealthy family members on the Titanic, which was a ruse, I talk about it in my book, to take out that moneyed family members who were opposing any move towards a Federal Reserve type system. And once they were dead in the sinking of the Titanic, things moved rapidly to create this international reserve system and bring America on board with that, with crooked politicians, etc. But the thing that happened that also greased the skids for that to happen was the assassination of McKinley. Far more critical than most people give weight, most historians give weight or tie to the current moment. McKinley should be mentioned at every time we talk about President Kennedy's assassination, because they are related with the people behind the scenes and what their involvement was.
Wow.
So, I'll do something on that shortly. And it is in the work that I've done for the follow-on book, which is done, but, essentially, but I haven't released it because I didn't want to get ahead of our skis. It wasn't the right moment. I was ready to, and the more, it would have thrown off, I think, this movement in its focus before we got to the critical moment. We're now in that critical moment. Let's get through this a little bit, and then begin looking further out while the rest of the public is so fixated, and the media is so fixated on these people and the prosecutions. We don't want to take our eye off that, but we do want to be looking a little further down the road. And where does it lead to? It leads to the rest of the people that put them in power, kept them in power, and were the agency through which they tried to do this coup, not just to take over America, but to take over the whole world. Okay, and that's what we're pushing back against, and that will be the next decade.
Wow. Impressive. Yeah, thanks for sharing that about the silver, because you don't just get the silver and you hold it forever. You use it when the stock market crashes at some point, and silver goes higher, and you start to buy the assets that are going to make you generationally very popular with your people down the line. So yeah, that's a good point. Very good point.
Well, let me just add this.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, the stock market, while it's going up, and it'll hit 50 here shortly, it's not going up and hasn't been going up as much as, for example, silver and gold. So while it is going up, you have to think about it's actually collapsing compared to gold and silver. Why have they gone up more? Because the value of the money, see, the stock market does represent real assets. It's buildings, airplanes, cars, trucks, machinery, factories, plants, real estate, everything else. But it hasn't gone up that much compared to the price of gold and silver. So what you're really seeing, the correct way to see it is that it is relatively neutral or negative. And remember, when you have those stock positions and like that, you have a carrying cost, a broker fee, a tax liability. When you dial all those things in, oftentimes, even if your stock went up a certain number, you actually, especially if you dial in compared to a tangible like gold or silver, you're actually neutral or negative, even if on paper you made money and you paid taxes on it. So this is just one of those unique moments that you kind of have to think again. And I would say this too. It's a prayerful thing. It's not wasted to ask for divine guidance. For me, even with some of the stuff that you see here that I have, on the far side of this, they're kind of a type of gold bar. I think when everything recovers and we get back on track as a country, that some of the things that I have will be worth radically more. They're art and they're fun. So I get them out, polish them off, show a little love. And they are a type of silver coin, gold bar, or something. And people in your audience may have similar. It might be somebody that does farming or something like that, a tractor. It may be something that you do that you can make great gain by putting a little blood, sweat, and prayer into it. One of the things Jen wants to go do is the whole food or the whole wheat, freshly ground stuff with the baking in the ovens and things like that. That really is a lost art right now for the most part, but has great health benefits. And so there's things out there that people in the audience here have some personal expertise in.
Yep.
Gold or silver might not be the best thing for you. It might be a tractor that you know exactly how to maintain it, or it has a certain application, or you got a piece of ground that it actually works on. There's something that you should be investing in, not necessarily holding paper at this moment in time, that fits your exact area of expertise. My mechanic has, with the stuff he has in his truck and trailer that he travels with, $500,000 worth of tools. Well, to anybody else, it's a garage sale. For him, it's the way to make a living. And a lot of those tools, he might only pull it out of there, once in a year or every other year. But at the moment he needs it, he knows exactly how to use it, how to apply it, and can make pretty good gain with it. And so if you're in paper money, this might be the time to, keep some to pay the mortgage and the taxes or something like that. Day to day, it is hard to transact silver when you go down to the assessor's office to pay your property taxes. But you don't want to be weighted too heavily to the paper with what's going on right now. There's a huge war going on behind the scenes. People have no idea how big this is getting between the Federal Reserve, International Reserve System, the bankers in London, and our Treasury and Besant and Trump and all that. It's a lot bigger than most people have any comprehension of.
Well, I know who's going to win eventually, but in the meantime, stock up on your silver or get the tractor or the piece of art or
and as a last resort, good cookies. Yes, stock up on good cookies.
Absolutely.
So,
all right, Juan, it's looking pretty dark in there. I don't want you to bump into anything and get hurt, so we'll let you go. Thanks for coming in and sharing.
Yeah. Yep. of course, always glad to. Always appreciate the opportunity to talk to your folks, and you know, it's a critical moment. Hope that helps people a little bit. And as we have some further updates, I'll be glad to come back and do it. And by the way, love your Nino shirt.
Yeah, and that bottom where it's got the Q.
Oh yeah.
Nice touch.
Well, Jen has those over at the store there,
Yeah.
and so those are actually pretty fun. If anybody gets the chance to, go over and take a look, that's kind of a fun deal that I think is actually just hysterical. So, yeah.
Definitely. And the links for Jen store, the Jen Mac, Jennifer Mac, is what's
.com,
called?
yeah, thejennifermac.com, and then there is stuff over at allpatriots.gumroad.com, and I'm going to post a little bit of a special over there on something before the silver hits 50. I'll probably do that tomorrow, but and I'll have to up prices a little bit more, but I'm going to hold tight for the moment. So if anybody wants to go over there and beat that, that's great. By the way, silver, I expect it, I've said this several times for folks. Once it crashes through 50, which they'll try to hold that just below 50 as long as they can, just like 40 was a big psychological number, and they kept it down in that 38, 39 range. It's going to switch from these 10, 10, 10 things. Gold's headed for 4,500. Everybody's fixated on that 4,000. Now it's headed for 4,500. Silver will probably be in the 70 range at the same time. And it's probably moving faster than most of the experts are dialing in. So I think it's a pretty safe investment for the time being, with a lot further to go. But even short term, there's a lot of move that's going to happen with the uncertainty of events over the next several months and the political side of things. I think it's an important thing to kind of dial that into your equations and anticipate. And if you're going to move into any of the metals or something like that, especially, I think silver's the proper one personally, then, you're not, you don't want to be on the sidelines if you're going to make the move. Just do it, sit back, relax, and watch what happens next.
Absolutely. And Juan, just like everything else, you can see into the future. You get that, I don't know, you get that special viewer. But,
well, I've had my Lincoln Mark II forever. It's actually a great truck, and I looked into the future and said, well, they're not gonna make it like this for very long, and they only made it for 2 years. And but unfortunately, it's sitting there. It's one of my favorite vehicles. I just don't have time. So I think I'm gonna go start that. If I battery back up. That's a perfect car too. It's a low mile car, but it's kind of a gold bar for me also, because I think it'll be a collector's thing out into the future, for fun. So I'm just saying, if you don't have gold or silver, get Nino shirt. Don't have gold and silver. You might have some similar, and you don't have set because you've missed something. You might already have, somebody else might say, why don't you just sell it, get the money, and go buy silver? It's a piece of art. I've had it a long time. It's pretty well preserved, other than I had to leave out last summer and I didn't forget to get it moved inside. But if you can preserve it, I don't think they're going down in value. I think it's going up in value, maybe a little bit out into the future. So it's kind of a gold bar for me. You may have similar. Don't be upset if you've got something tangible. Just be careful of the paper or anything that's fiat, digital fiat too. It might move up a bunch, but somewhere reality is going to strike in there and, could clip you a little bit. So, let the buyer beware. I think the tangibles are the place to be for the foreseeable future. So anyway,
Yeah.
appreciate the time. We'll talk again soon, bro.
All right. Thanks, Juan.
All right. Night, folks.